Good morning and welcome to Daily Red Devil for all of your latest Manchester United transfer news and talk. Before we get into today's show, please do me a small favour. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if this is your first time watching. We're on the road to 41,000 subscribers, and also give the video a like. Let's try and see 500 likes on today's show. On the show this morning, we are going to be talking about Patrick Dorgu, with some journalists coming out late last night suggesting that Leece have accepted a 37 million euros bid for the Denmark international. We'll also be talking about Marcus Rashford, who seems to be taking one step closer to joining Barcelona. A little bit on Højlund as well. There's quite a bit of news to get into this morning. But before we do that, I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section. What is a fair price for Patrick Dorgu? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. We will start the show off by talking about that. So this story is coming out this morning from a very reliable Italian journalist, and he is reporting that Manchester United have raised their offer for Patrick Dorgu to 37 million euros, including add-ons. It says that today is a very important day and Leece will now say yes to the deal. It says negotiations now continue, but the final details are set to be finalised. So 37 million euros. Just to note that this does include add-ons. So it's about 30 million pounds, including add-ons. I don't think that's terrible. I think, as long as the upfront payment isn't too much, say, if we could get him for 20 million upfront plus 10 in add-ons, I think that would be fair, because that probably is about his market value. I think the biggest complaint in the United fan base was that a lot of people seem to think that you have to pay the whole fee, but if the add-ons are usually only achievable if the player hits certain targets and meets certain criteria. So I think, if we can get him for, say, 20 plus 10 in add-ons, I would be somewhat happy with that. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section. I know it's maybe a little bit more than some people had hoped for. I know, like, when you look on Transfer Market, which is usually quite reliable, the website, it has him valued at 20 million euros. So they are still getting like double what his actual value is, but I don't know. I don't really know what to say. I don't remember the last time we got a player for a good price. Can you think of anybody where you thought, oh, that was a really good deal? I mean, if you look through our recent transfers, I can't think of a single player where I thought, oh, we've got ourselves a bargain there. I mean, is there anyone in the recent years? Let's have a little look. Let's have a look at record arrivals recently, because I genuinely can't think of anybody, to be honest. I think every single time we buy a player, we overpay. I mean, I think in the summer people thought Xerxes was a good deal, but now it's probably 50-50. I mean, Lenny Yoro, we paid nearly 60 million euros for. De Ligt, 45 million euros. That wasn't a terrible deal, I don't think. Varane, 40 million euros. I mean, none of these are maybe Bruno Fernandes, 65 million euros. I think he's probably earned his value, hasn't he? I would say. But other than that, when you look through the rest of these deals that I've got up on my screen, Dalot, 22 million euros. I guess Ahmad for 21 million euros was decent, but at the time when we signed Ahmad, he was only 18 years of age, and he's only just started playing first team football now, 4 years later. So to pay 21 million euros for an 18-year-old, yes, it's worked out now, but it could have easily not worked out. I'm just looking back to like historical transfers here. I guess literally the only one I can see on my screen in the last 20 years was Ronaldo from Sporting Lisbon for 19 million euros. I mean, that was obviously a bargain, wasn't it? When you think we sold him for, I think, was it 100 million? But other than that, we paid over 30 million for Fellaini. We paid 40 million for Eric Bailly. 40 million for Donny van der Beek. Like, pretty much every transfer we've done in the last 20 years has been overpriced. So it's hardly surprising. I know people thought that Ineos were going to come in and suddenly we'd be getting players for half the price we did before. But at the same time, we're still owned by the Glazers. We still are seen the same way in the transfer market. As soon as Man United come knocking, the clubs add an extra 10 million on top. And I don't know, do you just say that we don't sign any players, or, what's the way around it? I don't see one. So I think it's still a little bit too much money, but I think because the deal is built up including add-ons, I think you can kind of just about justify it. So 37 million euros, which equates to 30 million pounds. We're still waiting to find out what the exact breakdown is, so how much is up front and how much is in add-ons. but the story does say that that it does include bonuses. So yeah. And then Fabrizio's also said Manchester United feel that they can get the Patrick Dorgu deal done in the next 24 hours. He tweeted this 7 hours ago. So he's implying that today will be the day that Patrick Dorgu joins Manchester United. He says that Manchester United are confident and optimistic after further talks with a new official bid. So this was tweeted 7 hours ago from Fabrizio Romano. And he also says that Patrick Dorgu has said yes to Ruben Amorim's project. So he wants to join Manchester United. And he said, this is another story from Fabrizio. He says Manchester United's new bid for Patrick Dorgu will be submitted in the next 24 hours. This was tweeted 10 hours ago, so it'll be today. Positive talks with Lecce were held yesterday, but still some slight work to do to get the add-ons agreed. So, as I said, Manchester United have matched the price that Lecce are asking for, which is around 40 million euros. They've apparently accepted 37, but obviously this deal will be built up with add-ons as part of it, which is fine. So hopefully they've done it. Hopefully they've done us proud, and hopefully we can all kind of just get behind the player, because I've seen a lot of people really, really piling the pressure on Patrick Dorgu already, and I think it's quite unfair. I think Manchester United have a horrible track record of overpaying for players, and I don't think that's on the player. It's not his fault that Lecce are driving a hard bargain. It's not his fault that Lecce would rather sell him to Napoli in the summer for half the price just because they can. It's a strange old world, the football transfer market, isn't it? And for whatever reason, Manchester United always seem to overpay, even when they have people running the club who are supposedly competent and supposedly know what they're doing. They're effectively just told either you pay the price or we'll sell him to someone else. And when they end up sending the player to someone else, they'll sell him for half the price they suggested to us. It's bizarre, but it's just something we've got to deal with. Les says, what about Mazraoui? Okay, yeah, that's a good option, actually. Yeah, Mazraoui, that's a fair point. I was looking on a list of players from the highest to the lowest. I hadn't gone that far down on the list. I'd gone to page 2. The bottom of page 2 was Cristiano Ronaldo. Page 3, let's have a look on page 3, shall we? Page 3 has, Wayne Rooney for 37 million euros. That was a bargain, wasn't it? Yeah, you have to go back really, really far to find some really good deals. Like we got Jaap Stam from PSV Eindhoven for 17 million euros. Mazraoui for 15 million euros. Yeah, that was a bargain. But other than that, I can't really think of any other transfers in the last 10 years. Maybe other than Bruno, where I've thought that is a really good price. There isn't many. Maybe Alex Telles, 15 million euros. He was all right for us. I don't think we overpaid for him. He was half decent. But you get the point I'm making here, right? The point I'm making is I may have missed one or two names, and I know people are going to say, oh, you forgot X, Y, and Z who we bought for 6 million and he was all right. The point I'm making is 95% of the players we've bought in the last 10 years we've overpaid for, and they haven't turned out to be worth the money we've paid. Would we all agree on that? There's a couple exceptions. Mazraoui, yes. Alex Telles, maybe. Bruno Fernandes, maybe. I'm even looking here, right? We got Igalo on loan in 2019. We paid 12 million euros to loan Igalo for 6 months. What was going on there? 12 million euros to loan Igalo at the age of 30, who was playing in the Chinese Super League. Anyway, you get the point. We overpay on transfers, and I think that this deal for Patrick Dorgu does seem a little bit high, but at the same time, I understand that he is one for the future. So, yeah. Les says, I think this deal is ridiculous. I really see it as another bad buy. We should not do deals like this. Simple as we get the piss taken out of us. What other big clubs are like this? The thing is, right, I think we need to wait and see how much we have to pay up front. 30 million total package. If it's 20 million up front and 10 million in add-ons, I think it's reasonable. But it all depends for me on the add-ons. That's the most important thing here. Because remember, if the add-ons are crafted carefully, i.e. that we're only going to have to give them more money if he actually reaches his potential, then I don't see the issue with it. If we're only giving them 20 million up front and he flops, then obviously that's annoying, but so be it. Whereas if we're giving them £30 million up front and he flops, then obviously that's bad. Ryan says, I think a lot of people are getting this mixed up. Dorgu is actually more of an attacker, and that's why his price is higher than normal. Yeah. Just to summarise, I'm happy with this deal. I think it's a good deal. I think that he's a decent player. He's the player that Ruben Amorim wants. We've got to get behind this manager. I'm fully behind this manager, and he wants this player, so let's bring him in. I think as long as I said, the deal is crafted carefully, which apparently it is, and that the add-ons are, hard to achieve and based on actual performance, then I have no problem with it. And if he turns out to be the player that we're hoping he will be, I think in a couple of years' time, we'll look back and think that was a good deal. That's how we have to look at this. It's not like we're paying 70 million for him. We're paying 30 million pounds, most of which will be add-ons. So let's try and get behind him. Let's try and be positive. I know people are fed up at the moment. I know people are not convinced with the running of the club. I know people aren't happy with the outgoings. They're not happy with the fact that, people like Casemiro are still here, Rashford's still here. There's so many names in this squad of players who should have been gone a long time. Lindelof's another one. Some might say Maguire, some may say Eriksen. There are so many players in this squad that need to be moved on. I agree with that, and I know it's frustrating, but I think this guy could be decent, and I think his versatility will be really, really important for Ruben Amorim because, we spoke about this yesterday a little bit, but if you look at his stats for this season in Serie A, he has played 20 times in the Serie A, 10 times at right wing, 7 times at left back, and 2 times at right back and 1 time as a left winger. So he's literally played all across the pitch. Most of his goals have come when he's played as a right winger. But you can see how this guy will be perfect for Manchester United because he can slot straight into that right wing back or the left wing back position. And he's actually attacking, whereas Dalot and Mazraoui aren't attacking. They just don't do it. They don't overlap. They don't bomb up and down the pitch. They get to the halfway line, look worried, and then pass the ball sideways. And that's no disrespect to Mazraoui and Dalot. I like Mazraoui, but he's not very good going forward. Would you agree on that? He's great defensively, and he's good at linking the play between the defence and the midfield, but I don't think he's very good once you go past the halfway line. He doesn't put balls into the box. He doesn't ever... I know he played as a cam once, didn't he? And he was all right under Erik ten Hag there, but I think generally, Dalot and Mazraoui aren't particularly elite attacking-wise, and I think from what I've seen, from what I've heard, this Patrick Dorgu guy seems to be very attacking. So let's get behind him. Let's back him. Let's hope he does well. And we'll see what happens. Everyone who's just joined the video, please do me a small favour. Make sure to drop a like. We're trying to hit 500 likes on this episode. And if this is your first time watching today, do subscribe to the channel. I've just dropped a link into the chat to do that. We are on the road to 41,000 subscribers. So please go and subscribe now if you haven't already. Let's try and get to 41,000. And yeah, do you know what's good as well? I don't have hiccups today. Anybody who watched the show yesterday will know that I had hiccups that just decided to start at the beginning of the show, and it was incredibly frustrating. A lot of people in the chat are talking about Garnacho, so let's move on from Patrick Dorgu. Just to summarise, Patrick Dorgu to Manchester United looks like it will be confirmed today. That's being reported by Fabrizio, being reported by other Italian journalists as well. A deal worth 37 million euros, including add-ons, which is 30 million pounds. Right, let's move on from that though, and let's talk about Alejandro Garnacho then. How's everybody... Let's do a little poll on Garnacho. Let's do a poll, because we haven't done this for a while. Should United keep Garnacho? I'd be really interested to see what the results of this are. Okay, so there you go. The poll is set up. Go and get involved. Should Manchester United keep Alejandro Garnacho? Obviously, if you're watching the video back on repeat, then you can't get involved in the poll, but you can let me know in the comments section. So you can go and do that right now. Yeah, let me know. I'd be really interested to see. So I'll leave that poll running for a couple of minutes and then we'll come back and talk about it. Okay, so the latest on Garnacho is this. It's coming out from Sky Sports this morning that apparently Manchester United's transfer window, i.e. incomings, is heavily related or heavily relying on Garnacho leaving Manchester United. So effectively they're saying that Garnacho leaving will open the door to Manchester United spending more money, which seems kind of obvious. But I don't know. I don't feel happy about Garnacho going to Chelsea. I thought if he was going to Napoli and we got 60, 70 million, maybe I would be okay with it. You know, I would understand that. The thing is, right, as well, you've got to remember in football, because people will say, oh, your opinions have changed. 2 weeks ago, when this story first came out, I think Garnacho had started once in 14 games for Ruben Amorim, right? In the last 2 or 3 games, he's played every single game and he's done well. So something's obviously changed between Garnacho and Ruben Amorim, and we've heard that from multiple different journalists that apparently Ruben Amorim is really impressed with Garnacho because of his desire to adapt and his desire to fit into Ruben Amorim's system. And I think some of the problems that they had before between Amorim and Garnacho was because effectively a new manager came in with a new idea and asking different things from his players. And from what we heard, Garnacho wasn't really... he effectively wasn't doing what was expected of him in this new system. And obviously Ruben Amorim didn't like that. But we can see now clearly that Garnacho is suitable for this system. Would you all agree? And I know 2 weeks ago I said he wasn't, but that was because our manager, the guy who's paid massive amounts of money and is a professional football manager, wasn't selecting him because he clearly didn't think he was up to the job. Whereas now something's clicked, something's happened off the, in the training pitch or whatever, and Garnacho is now understanding what Ruben Amorim wants from him. So I think, to be honest, my opinion has changed in the last couple of weeks. 2 weeks ago, when Garnacho was sat on the bench, he wasn't getting picked, I would have sold him because I think we could have used that money better to invest in the squad. But now, at the point of recording this, you look at the last 2 or 3 games for Garnacho, and I think he's started the last 3 games in a row, hasn't he? And Ruben Amorim's even come out and said that he's happy with Garnacho's desire to adapt and to play the style of football that Ruben Amorim wants. So if you look at the last 3 games, he started against Fulham. He played 81 minutes against Fulham. He played 90 minutes against Southampton, and then he played 26 minutes against Brighton. I'm not sure why he didn't start that game, but the point I'm making here is in the last 3 games, he started 2 out of the last 3, right? Whereas if you look at the previous... This is Premier League games, by the way. I think he started against Rangers as well, didn't he? He started against Rangers. So in the last 3 games, he played 90 against Rangers, 90 against Southampton, and 90 against Fulham. Whereas if you look at the previous, say, 7 or 8 games since Ruben Amorim joined, he played 25 minutes against Everton, 35 against Bournemouth, 11 against Wolves, 25 against Newcastle, and 18 against Liverpool. So when this story first came out about Garnacho leaving, I was looking at the stats and thinking, well, he doesn't play. We've got a player here that's worth £60 million, straight profit, sell him. Ruben Amorim clearly doesn't fancy him. Let's move him on. But things have obviously changed, as I said, and the fact that Ruben Amorim is now playing him every game for 90 minutes shows how much of an important player he is for this team. But yeah, I think he has done well in the last couple of games. I think he still has a lot of developing to do. I think he still needs to, be a little bit less selfish on the ball. But I think, for someone who's only 20 years of age, he could definitely become one of the best wingers in the world, I think. Maybe. Obviously, he might not. It depends, doesn't it? He might get a terrible injury. He might just kind of stagnate. But I think it would be a massive shame if Manchester United sold Garnacho to Chelsea. I really do. So this is coming out from Sky Sports. They're reporting that the future of Garnacho will have a massive impact on potential incomings at Old Trafford between now and the end of the window. It says Chelsea are heavily linked with the winger, with Amorim not ruling out a sale, but now, between now and deadline day, should they decide to cash in on the Argentinian, it could help the cash, blah, 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 blah. So there you go. Right, let me have a little sip of my water whilst I read this. Yeah, so it's a little bit of a strange one, isn't it, really? Because obviously a couple of days ago, we had Fabrizio coming out saying that Chelsea were readying a bid for Garnacho. That bid never seemed to come in. There are some stories this morning saying that apparently Manchester United have told Napoli they want 65 million euros for Garnacho, which if you turn that to pounds, 54.5 million pounds. I mean, that's not enough. I'm sorry. 65 million euros is not enough for Garnacho. If we're about to pay 37, 38 for Patrick Dorgu, I don't think you can say 65 for Garnacho is enough, to be honest. I think for me, it had to be like 60 to 70 million pounds, which in euros is going to be a lot more than that, isn't it? 70 million euros is nearly 85 million pounds. 60 million euros is 72 million pounds. So, yeah, even though it would be going to Napoli, I still don't think it's enough. I still don't think it's enough. Yeah. Somebody in the chat is saying, oh, they're speaking to somebody else. They're arguing about Dalot. So somebody in the chat is saying this about Dalot. I'd be interested to get people's opinions on Dalot. So somebody in the chat is replying to somebody else saying that your opinion of Dalot has no conviction. You're saying that everyone at the club that voted for the player of the year has no idea what they're talking about. I mean, Dalot won player of the year in a team that finished 8th, was it? I don't think we can celebrate a player who finished... Like, do you know what I mean? Yeah, we finished 8th last season. We were terrible. And we're even worse this season. I mean, maybe Dalot was the best player in a very poor side, but still, like, is that really something to celebrate for me? Just to come back into this conversation. I can just see two people in the chat arguing about it, and I read it, and I thought, just because somebody won player of the year, you won player of the year for a team who finished 8th in their worst ever finish in the Premier League history. Is that really something worth celebrating? It's like getting a runners-up medal, really, isn't it? It's like, oh, you didn't achieve anything, but oh, here's a little award saying that you were the best of a bad bunch. Like, yeah. But anyway, let's move on from that. I thought I'd chime in there. Ant says that Dalot is bang average. I would agree with that. I think he is bang average. I would agree. He's not a bad player, but I don't think he's decent. I think he's just average. Okay, let's see what else people are saying in the chat then, shall we? We've got Lissandro Martinez in the chat this morning who says that 37 million is too expensive. Well, thank you for your input, Lissandro. Very nice. Okay, let's move on from that. Let's jump over to Marcus Rashford, shall we? So the latest on Rashford coming out this morning is that apparently Barcelona are desperate to sign Marcus Rashford on loan. But apparently Barcelona need to sell somebody in order to raise funds to do the deal. Because, even though it's a loan deal, it's going to be expensive for Barcelona because obviously his wages, there'll be agent commissions, there'll be Manchester United will want some sort of fee. Like, even though it's a loan, it's still going to probably be like a £10 million package until the end of the season. But I reckon Rashford will end up at Barcelona, to be honest. I'm pretty hopeful of that. I saw last night that apparently Barcelona are about to sell one of their youth players to a Saudi team for quite a lot of money. I think it's like 8 million euros. So that could then be enough to, get that deal done. So yeah, we'll keep you updated on Rashford going to Barcelona. At this stage, we just need to move him on. So yeah, the story coming out from Spanish journalist this morning is that Marcus Rashford has told Barcelona that he is willing to lower his salary to join the club this January. So hopefully he does that. There's also a story coming out this morning saying that apparently Galatasaray and Fenerbahce have been in contact to sign Marcus Rashford. I mean, I don't really believe that, to be honest, but fair enough. Maybe. There were even some stories the other day saying that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer wanted to sign Rashford at Besiktas. It's like if Barcelona and Dortmund and Juventus and, all of these other big clubs can't afford his wages, how do we expect Besiktas to be able to afford Rashford's wages? Like, I just don't think it's very believable. And is Rashford really going to take a pay cut to go to Besiktas? No disrespect to Besiktas, but it just doesn't sound very believable, to be honest, does it? I mean, maybe. I don't know. It just doesn't sound believable to me. Whereas taking a pay cut to go to Barcelona, I think sounds believable. Marcus Rashford really cares about his brand. He cares about his image. He cares about brand Marcus Rashford, right? And going to Barcelona will definitely bring him a lot more followers. It will bring him a lot more brand deals. Like, it will be big for him. Whereas going to Besiktas, obviously they're a big club in Turkey, but it's not going to have the same impact. You imagine if Marcus Rashford gets announced as a Barcelona player today, like, his profile will go up even more because obviously Barcelona have a massive fan base. And yeah, I can see why Barcelona would want to sign him because he is a big name player. Whether or not he's good enough on the pitch, whether or not he has the right mentality and attitude is a whole nother conversation. But from a brand's perspective, from a marketing perspective, which I know a lot of people in football don't like to talk about, but he would definitely add something to the Barcelona brand, you know? They've got a massive following. They've got 135 million followers on Instagram. What do Manchester United have? Less than that. I reckon half of that. Manchester United have got 64 million. So from a social media's perspective, Barcelona have double the amount of following as Manchester United do. So you can see why Rashford's desperate to join there, because his team around him will be saying, let's go to Barcelona. It will, it's a beautiful city. They've got a massive following. We'll get loads more brand deals. It's very clever, really. It's all just probably about money and about more exposure, and he'll say that he wants to lower his salary, which he probably does. And he'll lower his salary knowing that joining a club like Barcelona will open lots of doors for him and will open lots of doors for more revenue, more sponsorships, more brand deals. And we know that that's what his team are focused on, aren't we? So, yeah. We've got a super chat coming in here. Carl says, how far have Barcelona fallen if they want to sign Rashford? As I just said, mate, I don't think it's about football, to be honest. I don't think it's about football with Rashford and Barcelona. I think obviously there'll be some element of football, but the guy hasn't played football for like 6 or 7 weeks, has he? I think he last started a game in December, was it? So he's not really going to be ready to start games immediately, I doubt. Well, maybe he will, but I think it's unlikely. But I'm just having a look. When was the last time Marcus Rashford started a game of football? If anybody knows, let me know in the comments section. I'm just going to have a little look on this website. I think it was back in December, wasn't it? I know he was on the bench quite recently. Right, when did he last start a game of football? Let's have a look. I feel like it was December. So the last time he played any football whatsoever was on the 12th of December against Victoria Pilsen, and he only played 56 minutes. The last time he played in the Premier League was on the 7th of December, and we're now on the 28th of January. So it was, let's have a look. The 12th is there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What's the date today? 7. Yeah, so it was 7 weeks ago that he last played football for Manchester United. 7 weeks on Thursday. That's crazy. So, yeah, for me personally, I think it's more of just like a brand thing. It has to be. Why would they want to sign someone who hasn't played for 7 weeks and somebody who has a bad attitude? The obvious thing is that they think it will bring in brand deals. They think it will bring in followers. They'll think it will bring in revenue, exposure. Like, we know that Barcelona are a commercial club, aren't they? Like Manchester United are. We signed players in the past because of what those players could bring to Manchester United off the pitch. And that's Barcelona operate in exactly the same way. Some of the deals we've done over the last 10 years, like bringing in Ibrahimovic, bringing back Ronaldo, like they weren't the right deals from a footballing perspective. They were the right deals to sell shirts, to increase our social media following, to give us new deals in different territories, Like that was all we were trying to do with those transfers, was generate money. And that probably was successful. But from a footballing perspective, signing Ronaldo probably wasn't the right decision. Signing Ibrahimovic at the age of 35 probably wasn't the right decision. Signing people like Falcao probably wasn't the right decision. Cavani wasn't the right, But all of these players were big name players with massive profiles, came to Manchester United, would sell tens of, if not millions of shirts. Ronaldo would have sold millions and millions of football shirts and made hundreds of millions of pounds for Manchester United. And I see this Marcus Rashford to Barcelona is exactly the same situation. It's more of a brand deal opposed to an actual football deal. Him going to Dortmund would have been a football deal. Him going to, I don't know, a Napoli or someone like that, someone where he would have been going to play football. He's going to Barcelona purely for a brand's perspective, in my opinion. And whatever, that's fine. That's how football is these days. But you have to see it for what it is. Right, let's see what else we got here. Al says it's not a bad deal for Barcelona. We will pay most of his wages. They borrow the player and we pay most of his wages. Yeah, exactly. Barcelona will make money off this deal, 100%. Even if they say have to give us 10 million euros, right, until the end of the season, Barcelona will make that back on shirts, sponsorships. Like, it will be worth the 10 million euros for them, even if he doesn't ever play any games. And that's how teams look at things these days. You know, a lot of teams like Brighton don't do that. Teams like Brighton look at players they can bring in at the right age with a resale value who are going to perform on the pitch. Whereas teams like Barcelona and Manchester United, most of the deals that they look at are players who can take their brand to the next level, you know? Because all of these teams, Barcelona, Manchester United, they're brands. They're not really football clubs anymore. And that's the harsh reality of it, you know? Manchester United is a brand now. It's not, I mean, it always is a brand, but you know what I mean? Like, the main focus is the brand opposed to the actual football. Same with Tottenham. You know, Tottenham, all they care about is money. They don't care, you know? There's quite a few clubs like that. Whereas then there's clubs like Bournemouth, Brighton, who are doing things in the correct way and are now reaping the rewards. I'd say Aston Villa is another one at the moment. They're doing really well. But yeah, there are a handful of top clubs around Europe who are mainly just focused on what a player signing can bring them off the pitch. You know, when Brighton signed someone from Ecuador who you've never heard of for £2 million, like, they're not doing that to try and raise their brand or to get more followers or to get, you know, they're doing that because they think they can buy them, develop them, bring them into the team and then resell them in the future for more. That's what they're doing it for. That's their model. And that's a more sustainable model than buying overpriced, overhyped players on massive wages just because you think that that's going to open you up to new territories and to new markets and sell shirts and, you know. So anyway, I've gone off on a bit of a rant there, but I'm going to wrap the video up here, guys. Thank you very much. Oh yeah, people are talking about Pogba in the chat. I don't know. I think Pogba's just stirring the pot. So if anybody's not seen, Pogba put up a story, I think it was on his Instagram yesterday, and it was like a cartoon of him and I think it was him and Ahmad maybe. It was like a cartoon of him and Ahmad, and he said, like, I'll be back soon or something. I think he's just trying to generate hype. Again, I think Pogba's one of these players who's just using Manchester United's name to try and get a bit more clubs interested in him. So yeah, Paul Pogba on Instagram posted, let's see what's coming. And it was like a cartoon of Paul Pogba and Amad Diallo. And he said, let's see what's coming. Fabrizio said he's available as a free agent and officially allowed to play from March. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what to say about Pogba. How old is Pogba now? I mean, this is a prime example. Manchester United bringing back Paul Pogba would be exactly what I'm describing. This would be the perfect signing for Manchester United. Not from a footballing perspective. It would be a bad signing, I think, from a footballing perspective. But from a brand, marketing, shirt sales, exposure, it would be perfect. It's exactly the kind of deal that Manchester United would used to do. You know, bring him back for the third time. Great. He's 31 years of age now. He'll be 32 in March. When was the last time Paul Pogba actually even played a game of football? That's the question. Let's have a look. I mean, it must have been years ago, surely. Was it 23? So he played 52 minutes in 23-24. So what was that, last season? Season before that, he played... I mean, even the season before that, he only played 161 minutes. 21-22. So the last time he actually played a reasonable amount of minutes was when he was a Manchester United player. Since he's left Manchester United, right, which was in 2021, he played 161 minutes in 2022. And then the next year, he played 52 minutes. And obviously, he's played no minutes this season so far. So since he left Manchester United, Paul Pogba, total, has played 200 minutes of professional football, the equivalent of 2 games in 3 years. I mean, for me, it's a massive no. You know, when you look at it like that, for a player to have only played 200 minutes in 3 years, a player who's got an awful injury record, and a player who's going to want massive wages, I get it. There's this whole Sentimentality, bring Pogba back, great. There'll be people in the fan base who are like really excited about it. But for me, it's a massive no. I mean, I'm just looking at his injury record here. The last season where he was available to play, he missed 53 games through injury. And the season before that, he missed 20. I mean, and then even before that, you look, he missed 19 the season before, 51 the season before that. So if you kind of work out a bit of an average, the last 4 years that he played football, he missed a total of 39, 40, 90. He missed a total of 143 games across 4 years, which is... It's on average about 35 games a season he missed. And this was obviously before he got banned from football. So even when he was at his best and he was available, he was missing about 35 games a season on average. I mean, it's a massive no for me. Let's have a look at the results of the poll then. So the question was, should Manchester United keep Garnacho? 76% of people watching the show say keep and 24% say sell. So that's interesting. Yeah, very interesting. Right, I'm going to wrap the video up here, guys. Please do make sure to subscribe before you leave. I can see there's lots and lots of new people in the chat today, so do go and subscribe before you leave. Let's try and get to the next milestone, which is 40,700. So go and do that right now. And be sure to drop a like on the video before you leave. 500 likes was the target. Obviously, the more people that like the video, the more that YouTube will show this video to others. So go and do that right now. If anything breaks, I will go live later on today. Have a lovely day, everybody. Thank you very much for joining me. This has been Daily Red Devil, and I'll speak to you all on the next one.